My best friend from high school jumped off a cliff into the ocean last week. He turned to the bottle, called an ex, and then he was gone. I'm making this episode for him and for every person who thinks Thailand will solve their problems. Because if there's one thing his death taught me, it's that running to paradise doesn't heal your wounds. It just changes the scenery while they fester. I need you to understand something. I don't make these videos for clicks or algorithm games. I make them because I'm trying to survive here too. And working through these issues publicly keeps me accountable. My friend never reached out. Not once. He wasn't an emotional person. In high school, we all thought he was invincible. We were wrong. The day after I heard the news, I enrolled in full-time evening Thai classes because when darkness creeps in, I seek connection, structure, purpose. But not everyone's wired that way. And Thailand, this beautiful, chaotic, smiling country, has become a death trap for people who arrive here already broken. Welcome to another episode of Thailand Truth Talks. Thailand is experiencing an average of 15 people dying by suicide each day, with 7 suicide attempts occurring every 2 hours. While I'm passing through these streets and areas of Thailand, someone in this country is attempting to end their life. But here's the statistics that should make every potential expat pause. Thailand's suicide rate reached over 5,200 in 2024, with a significant rise in foreign suicides, particularly among older men in urban areas. That's roughly 500 to 600 foreigners per year. Not backpackers, not tourists, long-term expats and retirees who thought they'd found their promised land. The numbers had been climbing steadily. Between 2017 and 2022, Thailand saw a staggering 32% increase in suicide deaths. That's not a gradual uptick, that's an accelerating crisis. And post-COVID, this situation has only intensified. Economic struggles, increasing costs of living, tighter visa restrictions, and a global mental health crisis means we're sitting in a ticking time bomb. This April of 2025, a 73-year-old American expat named Martin was discovered in his Patong home. He'd used gas from his cooking stove and a plastic bag. This wasn't some desperate kid who got in over his head. This was a retiree who'd planned his golden years in paradise. The conspiracy theories you see in expat Facebook groups about balcony accidents and suspicious deaths, most are just people unable to accept reality. The truth is worse than any conspiracy. People are choosing death at alarming rates, and the system designed to help doesn't exist. Every day, your feed fills with sunset photos, living my best life posts, and retirement success stories. What you don't see are the deleted accounts, the influencers who quietly disappeared, the vloggers whose channels went dark because they're no longer alive. I personally know of YouTube creators who promoted the Thailand dream who died by suicide. Their channels still exist, frozen in time, still selling the fantasy that killed them. Research confirms that expats face higher mental health risks simply from displacement, from being severed from everything familiar. But nobody discusses this because it doesn't generate engagement. It doesn't sell the dream. It doesn't get sponsorships from condo developers, and visa agents. The highest suicide rates in Thailand are observed among older individuals aged 55 and above, while teenagers have the highest rates of suicide attempts. For foreigners, the pattern is stark. Men over 50, particularly from Russia, China, Korea, and Western Europe, using high place jumping as their method. If you're a 55-year-old man planning retirement in Thailand, you're in the highest risk category. That's not fear-mongering. That's statistical reality. The question is, why? Why does a demographic that should be enjoying leisure become the demographic most likely to die by their own hand? For Thai nationals, young men aged 20 to 29 show the highest risks, typically using poisoning or firearms. But the foreign suicide profile is distinctly different. Older, financially distressed, and often involving falls from high buildings or hotels. Understanding these patterns isn't morbid curiosity. It's potentially life-saving information if you're in or near these risk categories. Thailand is developing a national suicide prevention plan extending to 2030, aligned with WHO's Live Life package for suicide prevention. But here's what they're not telling you. The situation is expected to get worse before it gets better. Post-COVID economic struggles, increasing cost of living, tighter visa restrictions, and a global mental health crisis means we're sitting on a ticking time bomb. The infrastructure being planned won't be ready for years, but the crisis is happening now. The WHO representative to Thailand recently emphasized the strong correlations between social isolation, anxiety, depression, and suicide, all factors that are intensifying for expat communities. The economic aftermath of COVID hit Thailand's expat community particularly hard. Many lost businesses, watched their savings evaporate during border closures, or found themselves trapped in Thailand when they'd planned to leave. The long-term psychological impact of that period still reverberates. People who barely survived financially during COVID are now trying to rebuild an economy with higher costs and fewer opportunities. Visa regulations have tightened significantly. What used to be relatively straightforward now involves more paperwork, higher financial requirements, and greater uncertainty. The stress of maintaining legal status, combined with the knowledge that everything could change with new regulations, creates persistent low-level anxiety that erodes mental health over time. When you move to Thailand, you're not just changing your address, you're detonating your support network. That therapist who knows your triggers, gone. Your doctor who tracks your medication, not here. The friends who notice when you're spiraling, thousands of miles away on a different time zone. Many arrive pre-damaged, fresh divorces, job losses. When you move to Thailand, you're not just changing your address, you're detonating your support network. That therapist who knows your triggers, gone. Your doctor who tracks your medication, not here. The friends who notice when you're spiraling, thousands of miles away on a different time zone. Many arrive pre-damaged, fresh divorces, job losses, health scares. They see Thailand as a reset button, but what they're actually doing is removing every safety net they had while amplifying their vulnerabilities. The lifestyle compounds the problem. Sure, the rent is cheap, until your pension doesn't stretch as far as YouTube promised. That Thai girlfriend seems perfect, until you realize her family views you as an ATM with a heartbeat. Learning Thai is harder than Duolingo suggested, and suddenly you can't explain your symptoms to a doctor or understand what the police are saying when they knock on your door. I've watched it unfold too many times. Successful professionals arrive expecting leisure and low costs, only to discover that without purpose, without meaningful work, without community, even the smartest person can slip into despair. Try explaining complex trauma through Google Translate. Try describing your depression symptoms to a psychiatrist who sees mental health through a completely different cultural lens. In Thai culture, mental illness carries profound shame. It reflects poorly on your family, suggests bad karma, indicates spiritual failure. Even if you find an English-speaking psychiatrist, they may approach treatment differently than you expect. Western-style therapy, talking through childhood, exploring emotions, often gives way to medication-first approaches or suggestions to make merit at a temple rather than process your grief. This isn't criticism, it's reality. And when you're in crisis, these cultural gaps can feel insurmountable. You might be told that your depression stems from past life karma, that you need to meditate more, that talking about suicide brings bad luck. These cultural interpretations, while well-meaning, can leave you feeling more isolated and misunderstood than ever. Thailand spends only 1 to 2% of its national health budget on mental services, compared to 5 to 10% in developed countries. And as explained earlier, Thailand developed a national suicide prevention plan extending to 2030, aligned with WHO's Live Life package for suicide prevention. But here's what they're not telling you. The infrastructure won't be ready for years. The crisis is happening now. The country has a critical shortage of mental health professionals, especially outside Bangkok. Rural areas are mental health deserts. And here's the thing. The Thai government openly admits it has no mandate to provide mental health care for non-citizens. You're on your own. Private options exist. Bangkok Hospital, Bumrungrad, but a single session with an English-speaking psychiatrist costs 3,000 to 6,000 baht. That's about $100 to $200. Regular therapy, ongoing medication management. The costs become unsustainable for retirees on fixed incomes, forcing impossible choices between mental health and financial survival. There are far fewer psychiatrists and psychologists per capita than in Western nations. If you're living outside Bangkok, Chiang Mai, or Phuket, your chances of finding qualified English-speaking help drop dramatically. You might find yourself traveling hours just for a 30-minute appointment, adding physical exhaustion and expense to your mental burden. At first, everything sparkles. You're meeting people at bars, connecting with expats, enjoying language exchanges. But novelty fades, and suddenly you realize these connections are superficial. The expat community is transient. That friend you made last month is gone next month. The social groups revolve around drinking, hardly helpful when you're trying to maintain mental stability. Meanwhile, forming genuine friendships with Thais remain elusive for most. Language creates barriers, but it's deeper than vocabulary. Cultural differences in how friendships form and express themselves leave Western expats perpetually on the outside. You might have Thai acquaintances, even a Thai partner, but do you have someone you can truly confide in at 3 a.m. when the darkness closes in? The quality of expat friendships often remains questionable too. How many are based on genuine connection versus convenient drinking buddies who happen to share your passport color? The constant turnover means you're perpetually starting over, always the new person trying to break into established groups, or watching your own friend group dissolve as people return home or move on. An Australian retiree in Buriram was found dead with 3,000 bahts and a suicide note. He'd had his property stolen in Pattaya, couldn't get police help, watched his savings evaporate. A British businessman, 57, died by nitrogen inhalation in a Chiang Mai resort. These weren't poor people. They became desperate after arriving. The cheap cost of living turns expensive when factoring in Western standards. International health insurance, visa complications, and the inevitable financial requests from Thai partners' families. The visa system itself creates constant anxiety, endless runs, changing regulations, the persistent threat that your right to stay could be revoked at any border crossing. Many retirees discover too late that their pension or savings don't stretch as far as promised. Inflation affects Thailand too. The baht strengthens against Western currencies. Medical emergencies drain reserves. That comfortable retirement becomes increasingly uncomfortable. And the shame of financial failure combines with the practical impossibility of returning home broke. Relationships trigger more mental health crises among expats than perhaps any other factor. The pattern repeats endlessly. Older Western man meets younger Thai woman, believes he's found authentic love, invests emotionally and financially, discovers the relationship was transactional from day one. The psychological impact of this betrayal, combined with financial ruin and social humiliation, devastates someone already vulnerable. Even genuine cross-cultural relationships face enormous challenges. When they fail, and statistics show they fail often, the expat is left more isolated than before, broke and emotionally destroyed. Family obligations you never anticipated become sources of constant conflict. Her buffalo is always sick. The house always needs repairs. Siblings need school fees. You're expected to be the family ATM, and saying no creates rifts that threaten the relationship. The emotional manipulation, whether intentional or culturally expected, can be extraordinarily difficult to navigate, especially when you're isolated from outside perspectives. Thailand's easy access to alcohol creates another danger layer. Alcohol is cheap, available 24/7, socially encouraged in expat circles. The slide from social drinking to problem drinking to full alcoholism happens seamlessly. Many pharmacies sell benzodiazepines and sleeping pills without proper oversight. Self-medication tempts when proper mental health care is inaccessible or unaffordable. The tropical heat makes hangovers worse. Isolation means nobody intervenes, and substance abuse layers into existing mental health issues until everything collapses. I've watched expats spiral, using alcohol or pills to cope with depression, anxiety, or trauma. It starts innocently. A beer with lunch, something to help you sleep in the heat, a way to be social in expat circles where drinking is the primary activity. Before long, you're drinking alone in your condo, popping pills to sleep, waking up with shakes, and the substances become another problem, compounding your original issues. In Western countries, mental health crises trigger multiple safety nets: emergency psychiatric services, crisis hotlines in your language, family interventions, social workers, community mental health teams. In Thailand, these don't exist for expats. Yes, there's the Samaritans of Thailand hotline, 02-113-6789 for English speakers, press 2. And they do crucial work, but one phone line cannot replace an entire infrastructure. If you're experiencing a psychiatric emergency at 2 a.m. in Isan, your options approach zero. Emergency rooms in Thai hospitals aren't equipped for psychiatric emergencies like Western hospitals. You might be sedated and sent home, or placed in an overcrowded, under-resourced psychiatric ward with minimal therapeutic intervention. Your embassy provides a doctor list, but won't pay for treatment or fly you home. Many expats don't realize how alone they truly are until crisis strikes. That moment when you need help desperately and discover there's nowhere to turn, nobody to call, no system to catch you. That's when the full weight of your isolation becomes terrifyingly clear. Here's something researchers are just understanding. Despite abundant sunshine, many expats suffer vitamin D deficiency, directly linked to depression. How? Expats avoid intense midday sun, stay in air conditioned spaces, use high SPF sunscreen religiously, combined with diet changes and liver stress from increased alcohol consumption. Deficiency develops even in paradise. This isn't about supplements. It's understanding that the paradise lifestyle might actively work against your mental health in unexpected ways. Several expats I've spoken with were shocked when blood tests revealed severe vitamin D deficiency, despite living in one of the sunniest countries on earth. The irony is cruel. You moved to endless sunshine and ended up more deficient than in your cloudy home country. Here's what makes this crisis particularly insidious. The warning signs look different in the expat context. Back home, friends and family would notice if you started withdrawing, drinking more, or talking about hopelessness. In Thailand, these behaviors blend into the expat lifestyle so seamlessly that nobody raises an alarm. Drinking every day? That's just what expats do. Staying in your condo for days? You're probably just avoiding the heat. Talking about how nothing matters anymore? Sounds like typical expat cynicism. The normalization of destructive behaviors within expat culture means people spiral downwards without anyone intervening. I've seen it happen. A guy starts missing his irregular coffee meetups. Then he stops responding to messages. His posts on Facebook get darker, more nihilistic. People joke about it, make light comments, but nobody actually checks on him. And then one day, you hear he's gone. Everyone say they didn't see it coming, but the signs were there. We just didn't recognize them as distress because they looked so much like normal expat behavior. The other factor is shame. Men especially struggle to admit they're not coping. They came here to escape problems, to start fresh, to prove they could make it work. Admitting failure, admitting you're drowning, admitting you need help, that feels impossible when you've told everyone back home that you're living the dream. So they suffer silently, posting beach photos while planning their exit. Let me paint you a picture of what daily life actually looks like for many struggling expats. You wake up in your studio apartment, already sweating despite the air conditioning. You check your bank account, lower than it should be. You promise yourself you'd cut back, but somehow money keeps disappearing. You think about calling family back home, but what would you say? That you're struggling? That paradise isn't what you promised them? That you might have made a mistake? The time zone makes it inconvenient anyway. You tell yourself you'll call later, but later never comes. You head out for breakfast, and the language barrier hits you immediately. You can't read the menu. The server doesn't understand your pronunciation. You feel stupid, infantilized, dependent. You eat the same thing you always eat because it's easier than trying to communicate. You pass other expats on the street. Some nod, some don't. You have acquaintances, but no real friends. Everyone's transient. Everyone's got their own problems. Everyone's pretending to be fine. You go home, scroll through social media, see everyone's highlight reels, and feel even more inadequate. The afternoon stretches endlessly. No job to go to, no obligations, no structure, just heat and time and thoughts you'd rather not have. You tell yourself tomorrow will be different. tomorrow you'll join that language class, go to that meetup, reach out to that person. But tomorrow comes and you find excuses again. This is how it happens, not dramatically, but through the slow erosion of purpose, connection, and hope. The days blur together until you realize you can't remember the last time you felt genuinely happy. And you can't imagine a future where things get better. Let's talk specifics about money, because this is where the fantasy crashes into reality for most people. You've done your research. You've read you can live comfortably in Thailand for 1,500 to 2,000 USD per month. The YouTube videos confirm it. The blog posts promise it. You arrive confident your savings or pension will last indefinitely. Then reality hits. Sure, street food is cheap, but you can't eat street food every meal without health consequences. Western food costs as much or more than back home. Rent in a decent area with reliable power and internet isn't as cheap as promised. The air conditioning runs constantly, and electricity isn't cheap. Your phone and internet aren't cheap. Visa runs and extensions add up. Insurance, if you're smart enough to get it, costs real money. Then there are the hidden costs nobody warns you about. Your Thai partner's family needs help. How can you refuse when you're the rich foreigner? Your condo needs repairs. You get sick and the hospital bill shocks you. You need to fly home for a family emergency. Your laptop dies. Your tooth breaks. Suddenly, that comfortable cushion is shrinking. You start making compromises. Cheaper apartment in the worst area. Skipping the insurance renewal. Cutting back on visits home. Rationing medication. Each compromise makes life harder, which makes your mental health worse, which makes it harder to address the problems, which creates a downward spiral. And here's the cruel part. You can't easily go back. Returning home means admitting failure. It means having no job, no home, depleted savings. It means starting over in your 50s or 60s in an economy that's moved on without you. So you stay, watching your safety net disappear, anxiety building with each passing month. What I want you to understand is how these factors compound. Mental health issues don't exist in isolation. They create cascades that make everything worse. Depression makes you withdraw socially, which increases isolation, which deepens depression. Financial stress causes anxiety, which impairs decision making, which worsens financial problems. Relationship issues trigger emotional instability, which leads to poor coping behaviors like drinking, which damages relationships further. You start drinking more to cope with loneliness. The drinking causes health problems and drains finances. The health problems create more stress. The financial drain creates more anxiety. The anxiety makes you less social. The isolation increases drinking. Around and around it goes. Or consider this cascade. You have a falling out with your Thai partner. You're emotionally devastated and financially compromised. You turn to alcohol to cope. Your judgment becomes impaired. You make poor financial decisions. You run out of money. You can't afford proper housing or food. Your physical health deteriorates. You can't access mental health care because you can't afford it. The depression becomes overwhelming. You see no way out. This is why Thailand can be so dangerous for vulnerable people. One problem triggers another, which triggers another, and before you know it, you're in a crisis with no resources to address it. Back home, various systems might catch you at different stages. Here, there's nothing to break your fall. Before making major decisions about Thailand, answer these honestly. If your money ran out tomorrow, what would you do? Do you have a concrete plan or just hope? If your relationship ended badly, would you have anyone to turn to within a 20-minute drive? Not acquaintances, actual support. Can you name 3 people in Thailand who would notice if you didn't leave your apartment for a week? Really think about this. When did you last have a real conversation with someone who genuinely cares about your well-being? Not small talk, real conversation. If you needed emergency psychiatric care tonight, do you know exactly where to go and how to pay for it? If you struggled with any of these questions, you're not ready for expat life in Thailand. Full stop. Underground support networks exist. WhatsApp groups where people check on each other daily. Informal coffee meetings that are really mental health check-ins. Facebook groups with code words for when someone needs help. These networks have saved lives, but they're hard to find and often exclusive because they've learned that publicity attracts trolls and people who complain without taking action. If you're serious about protecting your mental health here, find these groups before you need them. Attend recovery meetings, AA and NA. Even without substance issues, these communities understand struggle. Look for expat volunteer groups. People who give back tend to look out for each other. Start building your safety net before you need it, because once crisis hits, you won't have the energy or clarity to create one. The expat community needs honest conversations about mental health. Facebook groups full of paradise photos need balance with real discussions about challenges and dangers. We must stop promoting Thailand as an escape for people with problems and acknowledge that it often amplifies those problems. New expats need warnings about mental health risks before arriving. They need to know that Thailand's mental health infrastructure is inadequate for foreigners, that isolation is a real danger, that financial and relationship stress are common. They need coping strategies, emergency funds, and realistic expectations. Those already here need to look out for each other better. If you notice an expat friend withdrawing, drinking more, talking about hopelessness, don't ignore it. Reach out. One conversation can make the difference between life and death. Maintain home country connections. Schedule regular video calls with family and friends. Keep your support network active. Consider maintaining a therapist from home via video. Build genuine community here. Look beyond the bar scene. Find shared interest groups, hiking clubs, book clubs, volunteer organizations. Create connections based on more than just being foreign. Learn Thai. Even basic conversational ability reduces isolation and helps navigate daily challenges. It's cognitively beneficial and provides a sense of achievement. Maintain purpose and structure. Don't drift through retirement. Volunteer, teach, create, learn. Having a reason to get up matters crucially for mental health. Be realistic about finances. Have an emergency fund. Have an exit plan. Know what you'll do if things don't work out. Financial security reduces anxiety and provides options. Be cautious with relationships. Take time to understand culture dynamics. Don't invest everything emotionally or financially too quickly. Maintain independence and self-sufficiency. Know your resources. Save the Samaritans number. Again, 02-113-6789. Press 2. Research mental health services before needing them. Consider international health insurance covering mental health and medical evacuation. If you're dealing with serious mental health issues, we need to have brutal honesty. Thailand is probably not the answer. It's not a place to heal from trauma, recover from breakdown, or escape problems. The challenges here worsen existing mental health conditions. This doesn't mean people with mental health histories should not come here, but they should come prepared, stable, with realistic expectations, treatment plans in place, support systems maintained, exit strategies prepared. Thailand can be wonderful for the right person at the right time, but for vulnerable individuals seeking escape, it becomes a beautiful trap, a paradise that becomes a prison, where the very thing that attracted you become the things that endanger you. Many of the problems expats face here are solvable, or at least temporary. Financial issues could be addressed by returning home. Relationship problems will heal with time. Visa stress can be managed with proper planning, but when you're isolated, possibly substance affected, without proper mental health support, these temporary problems feel insurmountable. That's when people choose permanent solutions to what are often temporary problems. I'm reminding you again why I do this, not for clicks, but for self-reflection and helping others because I seek outwards to process my issues. I recommend you do the same. My friend's death reinforced how important these difficult conversations are. If even one person reconsiders their move because they realize they're not mentally prepared, if even one expat here reaches out instead of suffering silently, then this episode matters. We need to stop selling fantasies and deal with realities. Thailand won't fix your problems. Often, it amplifies them. But with awareness, preparation, and genuine community support, building a good life here is possible. It just requires much more than most expect. The next episode will cover healthcare in Thailand, navigating the maze of scams and complexities because physical and mental health are intimately connected. Remember, if you're struggling, reach out, talk to someone. Your life has value, your problems are temporary, and people care, even if it doesn't feel that way right now. Until next time, this has been Thailand Truth Talks. Take care of yourselves, and take care of each other.